Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want us to talk a little bit about Matt Hoover and Chevron Deference. Okay, so the the Supreme Court recently in July of 2024 struck down, or June 2024, I forgot which day it was, struck down the doctrine of Chevron Deference, by which Matt Hoover of CRS Firearms had been convicted. And since the Supreme Court struck down this doctrine, I think that all of us need to be petitioning and screaming from the top of our lungs that Matt Hoover's conviction should be immediately overturned, and really he should be compensated for the malicious prosecution that he's undergone. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this situation. So Chevron Deference was based on an earlier Supreme Court ruling that basically said that when it comes to like gray areas and interpreting the laws that Congress passed, the government agencies are the subject experts, right? And when a case comes to court, okay, let's say it's an EPA case, right? Environmental Protection Agency, right? What the EPA says as the subject experts gets deference, right? The court should rely on their opinion, and this is for all the agencies, right? EPA, FDA, right? Something involving food, ATF, anything involving guns. So that's what the Supreme Court had said in the past, that the government agencies, as the subject experts, get deference, right? And of course, we all know that the government agencies are rarely experts on anything, okay, including the things that they're supposed to be experts on. Okay, so recently the doctrine of Chevron Deference was overturned. All this means is that these different agencies, when they go to court, right, they decide that they're going to prosecute somebody, they can't just go to court and say, hey, this is the law that Congress passed, this is our interpretation of it, we're the experts, so everybody has to abide by our interpretation. So now the agencies actually, because in the past the courts would say, yep, you're the experts, Chevron Deference says that we have to go by what you say, and they really didn't care too much about hearing any contrary, contrary opinions or arguments, etc. Okay, so now all this means is that if you have a government agency and they take somebody to court, they no longer get deference. They actually have to work and try to prove that their interpretation is the correct one of the law that Congress passed. Okay, so that's all that is. So in the case of Matt Hoover, basically he wasn't even selling the trinket, right? He was actually just promoting it on his channel, and all this was an etching on a piece of metal. Okay, that if you cut out this along the lines, you might have something that might function as a machine gun part. Okay, however, when the ATF tried to etch it out and make it work, they had great difficulty, and they had to modify it further. Okay, and still, the agency, right, the government, was able to get a conviction against Matt Hoover on the basis that they're the experts, and the courts were basically forced to accept that they were the experts and what they say is the truth, basically. So now that's no longer the case. Okay, so now the courts have to listen to really what both sides say and have to listen to both arguments. One side gives one interpretation of the law, the other side gives their interpretation of the law. Okay, and the court has to give equal weight to both arguments and try to figure out what's true and what's not true. Okay, or what is what is closest to what Congress intended when they passed the law. Okay, so in the case of Matt Hoover, okay, he was convicted by Chevron Deference. Right, when he went into court, the court really didn't care about anything he had to say. They accepted the fact that based on Chevron Deference, the government was the expert, right, or the government agency was the expert, and they just handed out a conviction. Okay, so now that Chevron Deference has been overturned, that conviction needs to be overturned. Okay, and not only that, there needs to be an investigation into malicious prosecution, because that case was very politically motivated. So because the ATF, the government, had other options. That, I think the standard procedure would have been to send him a cease and desist letter. Okay, they skipped that because they wanted to have a prosecution. So I don't think that this is something that has been getting enough attention since the Chevron Deference doctrine was struck down by the Supreme Court. It's not something that I think is getting enough attention, and I think more of us need to speak up. And the reason why I'm doing this video is I'm hoping some of you guys watching this video will go to the larger channels and start voicing this in the comments, and maybe some of the other people that have larger channels will also start doing a video on this, and hopefully we'll get some traction and we'll get some justice for Matt Hoover. Okay, so now one of the things that also has come out of this case is there was a prior, again, the Chevron Deference was a prior case decided by a Supreme Court, overturned now. Okay, so really important for you guys that say that elections don't matter, or they do matter. If Trump had not appointed 3 of the justices to the Supreme Court, Chevron Deference would not have been struck down. We would not have won the bump stock case. So it really matters who sits on the Supreme Court. And yeah, I know I've said it before. The Supreme Court is absolutely not in favor of our individual rights. Okay, the Supreme Court, even as far as the conservatives, right? The Supreme Court conservatives, with the exception of Clarence Thomas, he's the good guy. Okay, the other conservatives, they're primarily institutionalists. Okay, what they are most concerned about is preserving the separation of powers, and especially they don't want the judicial branch to lose power to the other branches, particularly the executive branch. Okay, so that's what the primary motive is of the conservative Supreme Court justices, or so-called conservative Supreme Court justices, with the exception of Clarence Thomas. Okay, the other 4. That's what their primary motive is. So they're never working on our behalf. They're working on their, for their own benefit, all right, to benefit their particular branch of government. However, sometimes, okay, when they're acting for their own self-interest, it also helps us. Okay, it also, so the Chevron Deference case was 100% a case, right, where in the original Chevron Deference case, the courts lost power, right, because the Supreme Court said that, hey, when a government agency comes into court, okay, the courts basically need to yield to the government agencies and accept what they're saying. So what this did now is it shifted power from the executive branch back to the judicial branch, so that when the government now goes into a courtroom, basically the justice system, or rather the judicial system, has the power to say, hey, you guys are not, you guys in the executive branch are not automatically correct. You're going to have to prove it to us here. Okay, so that's what is really happening here. Okay, this was the judicial branch taking back power from the executive branch. It just also so happens to work in our favor. And listen, we got to take whatever we can get. Okay, so this is something that we're going to be able to run with, and the first step really needs to be to get Matt Hoover's conviction overturned. Okay, so drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all soon.